Hello, everybody, and welcome to the Man Alone solo role-playing YouTube channel. And oh boy, this is a disastrous start here. Okay, let me get myself together. All right, much better. Hello, everybody. Welcome to the Man Alone solo role-playing YouTube channel. And today we're talking about games that fly under the radar. Now, I know what you're thinking. Malone, Dragonbane does not fly under the radar. Well, you'd think it would, right? Because it was kickstarted, and Kickstarter is supposed to be for people who just have an idea and a dream. But once again, Free League, they nailed it. They got $700,000 for this, and so these books here, the Book of Magic and Arcane City of Waves and Flames, they fulfilled it in a very timely manner. Free League does a great job with their Kickstarters and the fulfillment time. And so, look, I'm excited to look through it. We've looked through it before, like in the PDF, even though they did hijack my nervous system. I've looked through both of these books PDFs in totality, but then they like put this in cellophane shrink wrap, and my brain was like, wait, there's a prize in here. Now I want to open it. It's like, I already know what's in there. Although I'm very excited about the map. I'm actually most excited about the Friends and Foes standee set. This is like one of the most fun things from the core box back in the day, and I'm excited to relive that just a little bit. They included this cool little mini that I was so excited I already painted up. But guess what, friends? You can throw a turtle in any direction safely. You want to give it a little parachute, but you can throw a parachuted turtle in any direction around you, and you'll hit 5 videos on Dragonbane. Look, I'm gonna make one myself. All right, I'm going to in mere hours or days or never. I'm going to do my own Dragonbane video especially to assess the solo playability of this city adventure, which is filled with really cool rumors and tons of NPCs and a duck who is an absolute unit. He is a barrel with a beak. It's going to be great, but this already gets attention. They raised $700,000 for the Kickstarter. I have to find the other stuff. I have to take a look at those games that aren't getting as much attention. And that's specifically what this video is about. And now this is the second video in my SEO series, which has a couple different interpretations. Now, it's named that because the search engine optimization would say, Malone, what are you, a madman? Well, you finally lost it. You've got to follow your SEO. You want your metrics to go up, up, up. And it's like, no, sir. And I'll tell you why. Because say you use this promo code ManDiceAlone for 20% off at dicenest.com. You get a nice Prima Materia set, my solo role-playing Oracle dice, or you get some of these other beauties over here that you just gawk at and, stop paying attention to your son-in-law, Jeff Fernie. Whatever. If you did that, I would get $5.46. That's awesome. But I already have a job. So get $50 for a YouTube video in a month or something. All of that is getting reinvested in games. Okay. Because I already have an income. And so what am I trying to say here? Well, I'm trying to say that like it is my responsibility, because I'm able to spend funny money, I'm able to spend that $50 on a game that if I didn't have that, I'd be like, I kind of like that game, but like I don't want to take the risk. I'm able to take that risk. And so I am taking that risk. And then what do? Do I get it and I just play it for myself? No, I've got to share these with you. And so today we're going to look at like 20 games that either I think are awesome or are interesting enough, or there's something about them that could go either way. I don't know. All of them? No, most of them. Almost every single one of them has almost no coverage. And I searched for YouTube videos for almost all of these. And for some of them, I'm like, how? How is nobody talking about this? We're going to talk about it today. Forget SEO. We need SEO, something entirely original, or it also could be interpreted as So, a little bit of a weird place to start, which is not a game, but I absolutely have to share this with all of you just in case you're able to find it. I think it's fairly available. It was written in 2023. When I saw this at my FLGS and I was like deep in the bowels of it, I laughed because A, it looks like the off-brand encyclopedia set that we had in my house growing up. Like, it wasn't even Encyclopedia Britannica. It was like Encyclopedia Atlantica or something. And then it also says Storyteller's Dictionary. So not only was I like, what the hell is a dictionary doing on the game shelf, but also like Storyteller's Dictionary? Isn't that just called a dictionary? My friends, this is one of the best purchases I've ever made. If you do any writing or GMing or adventuring or solo gaming, and you come to a point in a story, a scene, something, and you suddenly realize that you want to describe the setting, you want to describe somebody's clothes, you want to describe their weapon, and you just don't have the right words. And it creates like a hard stop where you either have to give a very bland description, the sword was sharp and very sharp, or you have to go and figure out what parts of this sword or armor is called. And it's a tough thing because it's one thing to look up something you don't know, it's another thing to find a word for something that you don't know. But it essentially is broken down into every category. Like, each chapter is exactly the type of thing that you need to reach for in various situations. So, like, first one is geography, different words for biomes, climate words, different words for terrain, then fauna, then flora, then social organizations. Like, what are the different ranks in the military? What are the different shrubs that you could find in the wetlands? Then weapons and armor is I was very shamed by this section because I realized how many times I had read in different books, like especially fantasy books, different armor pieces, and I would just read them over and over and over again, and then I was like, I actually don't know what a demi brassard is. Now, I know that some of you know this very well because you're wearing it right now while watching this video, but I'm not kidding. I must have read the word or heard the word gorget 5 million times playing Pendragon. And I think my mind just thought it was like a gorgeous shirt. It has a whole thing on sword morphology, the different parts of a sword, the different types of swords, daggers, bows, different clothing, travel and storage, vehicles, habitations. Do you know what a barmkin is? You will. Occupations. Really, really great stuff. So, in case anybody is interested, I just want to say, in terms of books, this one is 100% certified Markook, which is a type of unleavened flatbread common in the countries of the Levant. It is baked on a domed or convex metal griddle known as sage. That sounds amazing. Yeah, I'm going to have to take a little Markook break here. So, a few videos back, I talked about how I wish more TTRPGs, specifically solo RPGs, introduced settlement building, resource management, civic choices, protecting population kind of mechanics in games. And one that I scrolled through, the PDF version of it is right here. I wanted to show you the hardcover physical copy that I received yesterday, actually, just because for some reason, the PDF did not do it justice how amazing and beautiful this book is. But you are not looking at the back cover. This is actually the front cover of Do Not Let Us Die in the Dark Night of This Cold Winter. And this is a relatively small book, but it is intended as a segment of a larger campaign so that we do not have to repeat Do not let us die in the dark night of the cold winter. For these moments that we talk about it, we'll just refer to it as cold winter. It says, while cold winter is mechanically separate from your regular role playing system, a measure of abstraction is utilized to keep the two games working as one. The idea is in a role playing game, it could be any. It states that it specifically suits low fantasy, low magic fantasy games the best, but could be modified for anything. It basically involves them surviving a winter. There are cards for it with the PDF. I believe that I got the documents for that, although printing cards never quite feels right. But I'm not able to find the cards anymore. I really like the system though. I like the simplicity of the design of it, even the crosshatch sketch illustrations. And I also think it does a great job with the handouts of bridging the mechanical and the aesthetic and the visible, allowing you to imagine what this predicament looks like through the pictures. As I often talk about, form following function, or a sort of rhyming that happens between the content and the form in which it is delivered. That I think when that happens, when there is a rhyme scheme between those, it's when a game starts humming and really brings out its best. As usual, I want to point out when games that do very little with very little. Hey, it's Malone with a post production interruption. Obviously, I meant games that do a lot with very little. I couldn't tell you why I said a little with very little. It's like a different person said it, and this other person is an idiot. Sorry. Okay. Are great things to look at for those of you that struggle with a part of the game design process. If you think to yourself, geez, I really would love to write a role playing game, but I'm not good at illustration and I don't have money to pay somebody for that. Or I would love to do this, but I have no idea how to get this published or anything. You don't have to be great at everything. You should be pretty good at one of those. I mean, that would be why you wanted to give it a shot in the first place. You at least think you are. Maybe you're delusional, but probably not. And then the rest of the stuff you could just do good enough. I mean, look at how much this says right here. And all it is taking a marker, and because it is the sparseness of this that really informs what this is about. Different occurrences. Here's a quick reference guide. And the rest of it is these player sheets. And you actually are able to see how much medicine do we have? Well, how many of the boxes are checked off? What turn are we on? Have we made it through the winter yet? What's our population? How many buildings do we have? How many deaths have we had? How much fuel, domesticated animals, food? And then here is the building worksheet where we can see who is living where, how much fuel is burning. Nothing is very technical here, but it's just enough mechanics to fuel a story. And that's what I think is really great about it. Some hooks in the back here, some nice like markers to if you wanted to photocopy these and actually lay out an example map of your settlement. Really, really great. Shouts out, props, etc. to Cecil Howe and Shasta Howe. All right, I'm not sure what to make of this one here. All I know is that when I saw it on Noble Knight Games, I immediately put it in my cart because I love Who Framed Roger Rabbit, and it's pretty hard to not immediately think of that. And it was easy to put it in my cart because Noble Knight Games has such great prices on new and used games and games that are hot off the press. Although maybe it wasn't hot off the press, maybe there was buzz about it. It's from an Italian company, Acheron, so maybe there was a lot of talk about it here in the US that I just totally missed, or maybe in Italy people are loving this. That's probably who I should be asking. Italiani, state giocando a questo gioco? How do I say buzz? Say molto Sei molta tesa per questo gioco in Italia? Because here, I mean, look, I think a lot of people would probably have the same reaction as me, especially when it's not just like good, it looks incredible. And it's no surprise that it looks great because the illustrator is Sean Dickinson, who was the artist behind not only one of my favorite games, but also your nickname from third to fifth grade, Cuphead. And even so, even if it was just pretty and had really nice illustrations, there'd have to be some good novel mechanics, right? If you're just going to reskin something as this old timey illustration, that's fun. But does it have anything new to offer us in terms of how it's played? Well, yeah, there's some really interesting systems that are presented here. I'm conscious of the fact that I just read a 400 message post a few days ago about how reviewers don't play any games. And so I want to just put a disclaimer that I haven't played this yet and that you can only really tell what a game is like when you play it. But at glance here, there's some cool ideas. You could see right off the bat the abilities are or stats touchy, feely, handy, not handsy, and loony. The GM is the animator, and in order to do both skill checks and combat being called a showdown anytime that you have a challenge against an NPT, a non player toon. You have a showdown and you do a challenge, which is a draw of cards triggered by, as it says, in a way that implies consequences, positive or negative. And there is also like a trick taking element slightly to it, where if you draw cards, you total up the results. Each player has their own deck, and you total up the results. I guess more than one person, if like multiple people are converging on something. And then if it matches whatever stat you're putting the cards out for, you get an additional +1 toward the final score of your skill check. And there is lots of encouragement to take the cartoon mindset, which I think is cool. They say there's like 4 different ways to do combat. You can throw hands. Oh, right. Throw hands, use your janky weapons, improvise a weapon with scenery, and rely on the loony nature of your being. The degrees of success do have some startling spans here, like 15 plus points. If it were dice rolls you were doing that all the time, I think that would be a bit much in the calculation side. But since we're using cards, I think that that will work okay. I do hope that they come out with some decks of cards that specifically are for this game. This is one game where I would like to buy a simple deck of cards that do feature the game on it. Usually it's just like, can I just use my own deck? But this would definitely be worth it. And we have these 4 different levels of NPTs. You could have a lackey, a henchman, a gangster, or a boss, and that determines how much, not HP, but bonks they have, how many bonks they can take, tricks, and difficulty. What's cool is all of these different types of enemies have different tricks. So if we're talking about like a trick taking game, they're able to do card manipulation based on their moves. So uh, NPTs from the Eldritch Bottom, right here. All wet toons from Eldritch Bottom reveal a card and lose a number of bucks equal to its value. Bills, bills, bills. All the toons involved in the showdown. This is preferred by duckos. They discard their next card on a successful draw and draw another card. Black Tuesday. All toons draw this turn. All toon draws this turn suffer a -4 penalty to the total. However, a draw cannot have a value lower than 1. So I think this sounds really cool. And you could see how fun the whole spread would be. I think if there was a bespoke card deck, it would even be better. And of course, I want to really get a super poker, which is apparently better than a royal flush. But look at these illustrations. Isn't this awesome? Now, your tunes have tricks as well, each of them separated by different cards. Presumably, you'd have to level up to get them. And you can do certain gambling tricks where you bet against your ability, put it on the line, and see what happens. I probably am going to try to see what sort of solo potential this game has because whenever there's cards involved, it allows us to have static result numbers. And for whatever reason, with cards, you have a more dynamics of manipulation and more axes of variables with the card, the suit, the arrangement of them, etc. And so you're more easily able to install different attributes or actions or results in a card. So I think it could be good. But let me say this, it is written well enough to immediately convince me that they weren't like, hey, here's an idea and we're just going to like mail it in because the visuals of this are stunning, though they are. Okay. This also makes me want to bring up something that I think about all the time. And I'm actually going to talk about this as a means to transition between this game to the next, which is Infinite Revolution by Gwendolyn Clark, because both of these games seem to exhibit the same phenomenon, I think, which is regarding release dates and new releases. Now, to be clear, I'm not trying to rouse suspicions, be paranoid, accuse anyone of anything. I legitimately don't understand this, and it has puzzled me for a while, and I have a few things that I suspect might be involved in this. But if anybody has any bigger scale understanding of this, please let me know. But essentially, this game is currently a new release, right? It's labeled as such. There are reviews of it, etc. And this game also, when I bought it, I was like, "Oh, cool. I just got a game. Hot off the press," right? But then also you look and there is reviews of it from 2024. Drive Through RPG has the PDF of this game with a post date of 2025. And I think the reason for this, as far as I can see it, is two big culprits. Number one is that it is the norm to have a digital to physical like pipeline release that involves a alpha beta edition of them. There's also previews sometimes being presented as reviews. So like sometimes I'll be watching a video and I'll be like, "Oh, this is a review of this game." And then months later, the game will actually be released and I'll realize, "Oh, well, there's no way that could have been a review because that game wasn't even finished yet." And then the other thing is that Kickstarter is really warps this timeline because you'll have a game being kickstarted and I think they want to drum up buzz and they'll send it out to reviewers and reviewers will share their thoughts on it, and then there'll be distribution issues or there will be some sort of processing delay, or there'll be a conflict with the person who was supposed to do the binding of it or whatever it is. And hmm actually, I'm realizing as I'm talking here that some of my premises might be wrong. So let me pause for a second. Yeah. So there's also the fact that this is in or was created in Italy, written in Italian, so there was a translation stuff. And then also a lot of these reviews are actually previews, but I'm just not taking the time to correctly categorize that in my mind when I see it, or especially in retrospect when I see a game as a new release and my brain just goes, "You saw a review of that a year ago." And so I think that this is actually mostly my own confusion, though I will give myself a break on that to say it feels like something that is easily confused. And I think the reason why I realized maybe I was not giving a totally fair impression of this is that I was starting to feel motivated to prove this point as I was talking. And then I said, what is motivating me to do that? And I think it is both as a game reviewer, in as far as I review games, and as a consumer, I feel overwhelmed. There's like a tidal wave of games all the time that some people just seem to be better at keeping up with, or as a consumer, better at discerning between which ones to get and which ones not to. And I feel very outclassed in this respect, as if there's something that I'm not realizing or some sort of insight that I should be having that I'm not having, because I always feel like I am arriving late. But then I was like, maybe that's what FOMO is like constantly that feeling that you're arriving to something late and that you can't even enjoy something because it's already been enjoyed, right? It's like watching The Wire 12 years after it was aired, which you should still do even if it's 20 years. Okay. So I guess I shouldn't keep this part in the video, huh? Should I? I'll let you decide. Vote below whether I should just erase this segment. Let's talk Infinite Revolution. But first, just in time, as if to prove the point, let's go over a Kickstarter really quick. And this is not an affiliate. I'm not paid for this. It's just some, I just, a little unplanned segment here really quick because I literally just got an email notification from my friend Juan Diaz Bustamante. And Juan sent me Morkin, which is one of not only my favorite games, but favorite objects that I own. The book is so beautiful that I will defend it with my teeth. And Juan let me know that the new Kickstarter just launched for the Five Kingdoms of the Ice Mark. That's a new game based in the Lords of Midnight universe. Lords of Midnight was a 1984 game by Mike Singleton on the ZX Spectrum. You know, you either were a Nintendo kid, a Sega kid, or a ZX Spectrum kid. And if you were, you played Lords of Midnight. So Five Kingdoms of the Ice Mark is more of a solo RPG character creation, different character classes. In fact, I'll put this up on the screen. You can read all of this. And I'm going to put the link below. Go ahead and start that kick.
Let's keep going.
Infinite Revolution by Gwendolyn Clark is one of the most brilliant concepts for a game I've ever seen. And when I say a brilliant concept, I actually am not sure if I mean the game itself or the underlying concepts, the actual intellectual concepts behind the game. Because this game is one in which you play, well, a revolver, a last and best hope for humanity, with a turbine in your chest and starlight in your veins. Now, I know what you're thinking. Ah, a bit of metaphor, some hyperbole at best, right? Surely you can't mean that your character has a turbine in their chest. Uh, Probably not. But what you do have there is probably worse because you see, this is a Lightspeed exosuit RPG. You know the type. One in which you play a certain type of human that has a hyperentropic condition, such that if you do not function at faster than light metabolic speeds, you'll die because you burn so bright. And still, we have not said a metaphor. You burn bright. I'm going to try my best. As I stated, in Infinite Revolution, you play as a revolver, a human with a hypersonic turbine for a heart, and their revolver drive, an infantry scale exosuit forged from and fueled by their concentrated light of their hopes, fears, and dreams. Together, you are sworn to defend your solar system against the entropic scourge of the Veil. The interplay between a revolver, their drive, and the veil, the living, feeling human, the invincible cosmic protector, and looming existential threat they both face, forms the thematic core of this game and is central to the types of stories this game is designed to tell. For better or worse, your drive sets you starkly apart from the rest of humanity. To most, you're a living myth, a symbol that there's something left to fight for. So this is like what the Green Lantern storyline would be if people who wrote Green Lantern like knew anything other than What if he thought of being a hammer and he became a hammer? There are 3 phases of play: combat, crisis, cradle. The check system is, I would say, Blades in the Dark, Apocalypse, powered by the Apocalypse system. You have like a fail, a null, which you get complications, things get worse, a weak hit, success with complications, strong hit, success, no strings. And then if you get multiple sixes or strong hits, you get a critical success, and you do it with super luminary style. You can push your limits, which means you are digging deep in your drive and pulling out advanced capabilities, but at the same time, you take drive stress and therefore you can burn out. Again, literally. And so the more you push your limits, the higher risk you are of taking drive burn. Drive burn's the permanent damage to the turbine that keeps your atoms at a stable frequency. When you take a point of burn, choose any of your core's burn scars, permanent side effects that alter your character, and mark it off. And the fifth scar on the list is burn up. And when I say your core, you have different options of what you can be. So you build your drive, and your drive pattern not only determines your starting stats, it's also your combat approach and your powers, but it's also going to inform like who your character is. Then you have to set a starting RPM, revolutions per minute. This is a 5-digit number that measures how fast your drive core's internal turbine is spinning, and also serves as a rough approximation of how long they've been around. All right, I think I need to read this part because I don't think I would be able to paraphrase it. All systems tend toward entropy. When times were simpler, easier to explain, this was a universal constant, a comfort in a way. No matter how terribly it all went, no matter how many horrors we visited upon ourselves, our planets, the universe, it would all return to void in the end. What a relief, right? Our state changed that. Charged that. 831 years ago, a piece of the universe tore open, and our understanding of thermodynamics went up with it, never to return. We called it Royal, ROIL, a specific alien frequency emanating from certain human beings, untraceable, incomprehensible, and somehow entirely benign. At least it was, until desks and doors and consoles and ship controls, anything and everything a roiling human touch, started bubbling, shimmering, sublimating to floating motes of white-hot sparkling radiance. Our state. A human's royal syncs frequency with any physical matter on contact, producing under ideal conditions a pseudo-stable system that tends impossibly but undeniably toward energy. The revolver drive is the apotheosis of our understanding, as it is of our state. A ceramic turbine in a custom molded H carbide shell, machined to the nanometer for maximal resonance with a single royal emanation, capable of producing astounding amounts of usable energy as long as you find something that can handle the constant, ever ascending throughput. Something like you. Yeah, so basically, you are just accelerating anything you touch, you match frequency with the particles of it. And I might be wrong, so if you're actually good at physics, let me know. But I do remember this being something like that video of the bridge. It was a black and white video where the Yahoo is just standing there and he's like, the bridge is going like this, and he's just like, oh, seems to be a problem. Because for whatever reason, the pressures on it, the motion on it, the wind, whatever, hit that bridge and just like perfectly matched its resonance. And when that happened, every particle started like synchronously moving together, which allows these solid structures to achieve a bonkers level of movement. And so basically, these roiling humans are just up. They're up shifting, up shifting, a runaway. And so if you're moving that in that direction where something is moving towards an asymptote of velocity in a certain direction, then it's impossible or extremely difficult to change that. And so what this suit does is it allows you to essentially harness that. And if you don't harness that, then you're dead, because as it says, there has never been a successful case of an R drive returning to a lower energy state, and there never will be. Every point is a point of no return, every peak a valley. It only goes up. So we now have the general theme, the concept of this, And so it's going to make sense for the mechanics to mirror that notion. Things are going up, things are going to the point of no return, the stakes are going to get higher. And your drive basics, all drives have passive, an always on ability that defines your core's role. Powers, a set of cosmic abilities unique to your core. Using most powers generates drive stress, noted by the gold number next to the power. Overdrive, we talked about. Fail safes, emotional contingencies to avoid drive burn, and burn scars. Permanent consequences for taking drive burn, mark them all, and your body will permanently shift to R state, no going back. You then have heavy pattern, exotic pattern, ultralight pattern, tactical pattern, as far as your exosuit. Then we have our first one is Aries, Taurus, Chrysler Plymouth, Gemini. Seeing a theme here. The Scorpio is a hunter killer. Oh, I thought that said has a flam. So, for instance, the Scorpio, is that okay to say? I don't know. British people? Slag spasm? Choose a foe. They take one harm and apply all their negative statuses to all foes within one of them. Okay, so here is, wow, Aquarius looking good. Pisces. A bunch of weapons, beam weapon, bow weapons, celestial weapons, cannons, seekers, blades, terrestrial weapons. How about a GD7 Ripper blade? Obviously, you can see tags here. Oh, 1 second. It's not often you can say a sentence that I guarantee nobody has ever said in history, but I just accidentally dropped the Bhagavad Gita as well as the Sonic roll game on my foot. They both fell because I was looking at both of them while I was paused. I think I feel shame. So once you get like your bearings in this game, it does actually become quite clear what's going on. We'll hold off on bands for a second here, but ranged, melee, these different tags will tell you like the features and the abilities of the weapon. The harm is basically 1, 2, 3, 4, or 5. These different tags define, and these are all statuses. The one that comes up pretty early is braced, and that just means you take -1 damage from all sources, or it means that your enemy does. The combat, now this is basically like scene theater of the mind picture, but if you have ever read about the Harlequin faction in no, just kidding, not Harlequin. If you've read about the Harlequins in 40K, here's a few of them. Here's the Harlequin Solitaire. The thing about them is they are performers, but they are some of the strongest fighters in the entire setting. And while they're fighting, they're so good at it, and they are so able to predict everyone's movement that they actually do a performance while they're fighting. Like they will predict how an enemy will fall, and that will be part of the scene they're making. And so this, I'm not sure if it's just like that, but the descriptions of this divine dance across infinity is that it almost looks like a spectacle, a dance while combat is going on. Um, and you're going to establish starting speeds. Now you might think, okay, so yeah, I guess we're moving through space. We have to take that into account. This takes a little bit of knowledge of like physics, astrophysics here, but your speed is actually going to be your position on the combat field, or basically where you are in relation to others. Now, I want you to think about this. Let's say that that this was a ship, okay? And this ship had a camera that was looking at it. And this camera, if it was stood still, you would see the ship go and you see it get farther away, right? But if this camera was perfectly following this ship and there was nothing around it, say in space, it would look like the ship wasn't moving. right? Especially because there's no wind resistance, there's nothing in the background. And it's the same thing. If I was fighting this guy, boof, 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 and he had a flight power, right? It's like Batman versus Superman, and Superman goes, whoa. Batman would see him flying around. But if it was two Supermen who were going together and the camera was watching them move together, really, the only thing that would change their relative positions to one another is their speed. So if both of them are going top speed, if one of them is going slightly slower, right? That's their distance. How many bands apart? Okay. And when you're dealing with speeds that are up at like FTL levels, it, the idea of, well, if you're going 30 miles an hour and I'm going 20, it's just going to be like this. But yeah, but if you're going like 30 million miles an hour, I mean, literally, I think your speed here uses Planck's constant. Yes, I think I'm almost certain that this is referring to Planck's. Revolver combat usually occurs at a significant fraction of c. That's Planck's constant, right? Unless there's a c bullet point on this page that I'm not seeing. Um, and so basically, your max speed is 10, and rather than saying somebody is like close, near, engaged, far, very far, it's that the person's leading you, trailing you within the band where you can attack. Like, I think if it's within 2 bands, or you're matched, you're at the same speed. So it says, for example, you're at speed 3 and your weapon has a band of leading. Foes at speeds 4 or 5 would both be valid targets, but foes at speed 2, 3, or 6 would not. One more note about targeting: if effect targets an ally or allies, it means other revolvers in the brace, not yourself. I don't know why I read that. I thought I was going to say something else. But hey, good to know. Every day we're learning. Yeah, so it's really interesting. You basically, what makes this game, as if I haven't already established what makes this game different, but I will say this piece of the reason why these mechanics kind of work really well with this story is because this game is not a game where you're going to be like, all right, I'm moving around. Oh, I saw a bad guy. Boop, 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 boop. All right, back to town. Here we go. I'm going to do this. Oh, there's a bad guy. This is an incursion. Basically, the veil is trying to intrude in real space. So anywhere where they can tear open the rift and spill through, they're going to try to do that. You basically have to protect humanity, and it's not looking good, but essentially it's just going to keep coming, except when you're in the cradle. While you're in the cradle, which is like you're resting, you can rest, search, revel, spar, tinker, train, labor, or even love. PB, I would never doing combat, crisis, and then if you win, you get to meet Meryl Streep. So let me know what you think about Infinite Revolution. The last game that does not explicitly have any solo directives, we'll just want to talk about really quick. This is Gangs of Titan City, another game that came out ostensibly in 2022 or 3, and it's by Soul Muppet Publishing, who has plenty of great games under their belt. It's by Nick Spence, Ben Brown, Zachary Cox, and again, an amazingly well-made game, awesome illustrations, a really good set of rules that is familiar, as well as some areas that bring something new and are experimental. The setting, Titan City, is awesome. You have to create like a crew. The illustrations are like 80s punk art. The ability to create your crew, your personal, um, like whatever you are, you could be in one of the gangs of Titan City, you could be in a cult. It's really, really cool. Just like the factions that they have are unique. It doesn't feel regurgitated. There's a different advancement system for each gang or enclave, and it's a very varied set of things you could be. You could be a deal maker and handshaker, a broker class, rising up the ranks, garnering notoriety, money, resources, threat, all of those things, awesome. There's a huge section on pharma serums, like using different drugs to your advantage, adding cybernetic limbs. The whole book is, as is very common in Soul Muppet Publishing, beautifully laid out, as clean as can be, so that you could see everything. Awesome cycle of play that very much fits a kind of like moving up in the world, doing hatching schemes with your crew, and they're broken down even more. The escalation phase has a montage, then there's event tables for everything, gang moves. The operation phase is planning in the operation, and then the fallout involves what happened on the street or with legally, and then claims and income and gaining experience. Awesome directives for the GM, creating danger tables that help you track escalating danger, and really cool ability to generate like sectors of what would be a kind of like Judge Dredd Hive City type thing, spires. Um, and yeah, I mean, I think there is no reason why this game just isn't more known. And as much as I was able to use me wits to figure out what might be happening with like the release schedule of those other games, this I have a harder time understanding. Is like, you put together a $50 hardcover book, you put a damn ribbon inside of it. Did any review copies go out? You know, because there have been very few times that I have asked for a review copy. I have a feeling that some people will send like really pound pavement. I've done that with Free League, saying like, "Hey, I'm really interested in checking out the new game." I've done that sometimes with companies that they have not responded. But what's weird is like there are no videos for this. And so maybe that just happened, you know, like maybe it just was that people weren't interested in it, but I have a hard time figuring out why, because it's so much better. I want to say 95% of the games that have come out in that time, good as or better, but I mean, check it out, please. If you see this, it also, there's a soft cover, there's a PDF available. I'll link it below. Yeah, I mean, not that I need to hammer this in anymore, but these are the 3 videos that come up for Gangs of Titan City. The 4th video is this. I will allow you to read for yourself the name of these 2 warring gangs. And as far as the top list of videos, I'm sorry, I have to please ask you, if you can, to follow this middle guy unboxing in the Nook. I unironically love his channel. I watch he's still going strong, just like uploaded 2 or 3 videos this week, and he always does the same setup for his videos, and he always waits at the beginning of the video to say anything. let me let me just show you. Really, I promise, really quick. You're gonna love this. Here we go.
Good afternoon, or was a warm, bright and
Wait,
sunny
wait
day.
for him to drink the
It is
tea.
Tuesday, April 4th. Got a nice hot cup of tea.
Watch.
And a book to unbag.
He's the one.
Sorry,
He's
not
the
all of
only one doing this for us, folks. Please follow Unboxing in the Nook. And I'm sorry to pause you like this, but this is all right. All right. Also, if you're in either of those Utah gangs, reach out. I'd love to have you on, talk solo gaming. This is a quick update. As I mentioned, Delve 3rd edition. I have the soft cover. This is on Drive-Thru RPG. Very affordable by Broken Rat Games. And I just talked about how great I thought it was. And everything you need and nothing you don't. And it does have these solo rules, which are quite slender. But the more important thing is it's been considered, it's player facing roles. There's an acknowledgement that the game works well with solo rules. And it's really all the tables around it that make it so good and so easy for solo play. Like the GM toolkits have tons of stuff that we would expect to have in a like solo adaptation of a game. And every single time I do this, I can't find them, but oh, right here. So like events tables, rumor tables, adventure generator tables, all of this stuff. And I just kind of wanted to give the update that I also got the first adventure, Tales of Cragbaron, and that if you are interested in solo playing this, I would not say that this is a necessity, but I would say it does have an excellent set of additional tools that you don't always see in adventures. You don't always get a lot of solo stuff in adventures because it's just like lore and stuff like that, which is fine. But this definitely has lots of tables and tools. Look at this: random forest encounters, city encounters, tavern costs, mage guild advancement tables. There's like guilds advancement in each one of the guilds: fighters, clerics, thieves, mages. And yeah, I just thought it was really great. And so I think that this guy is a friend of the dude on Dungeons and Dyslexia, another great channel. So really good stuff. Hope that he keeps making stuff for Delve because I really enjoy it. Okay, so if you watched my video on 20 Strong a few months back, you know that one of them was Tainted Grail. And I was only familiar with Tainted Grail as a miniature game and as something by Awaken Realms, but this was actually a collaboration between Awaken Realms and Chip Theory Games. And I did do this video, and I hope Chip Theory liked it. No one has communicated with me from there since I made the videos, but I hope that's not because they're mad. I thought it was pretty good. And just looking at these cards, I was really not familiar with this universe before I started, before I tried this. It is like generally in the same shape as some things from Arthurian legend, but very much contorted. So first of all, it's a lot of like druidic stuff. So the children of Morrigan are like were beasts, and there's lots of druids, and your characters are didn't mean to do that. Like Arthur is just a massive like demon set of twisted armor and stuff like that. It goes hard, man. It's really cool. And I didn't know much about this before I played, but all of these characters left like such an impression on me that I was immediately able to recognize them when I checked out this Tainted Grail journey in Avalon. Journal in is not journaling. Well, it could be, but and this is a solo TTRPG, and I will say, just like some other games on this list so far, this is yet another game that brings something totally new. Now, when somebody really doesn't have a lot of experience in the solo RPG like world, I was going to say proper, that obviously is dumb, but like, you know, if you're somebody into solo RPGs, you know solo RPGs, you know when they come out, you know the different types there are. And of course, it's not like people are stuck in a hamster wheel of doing the same things. But I kind of like it when somebody steps into the space who does not have as much experience with it. It can really go either way. Sometimes it feels like a slap in the face insult where they're like, oh, how hard can it be? Just like play the normal game, but like, I don't know, do it alone. Okay, thank you. And then you get something like Tainted Grail, where it's something totally different because it is not tainted by their past experiences of solo RPGs. So, first things first, very, very high quality. And it is $35, and it's a collab between Awaken Realms and Studio. I want to say Agate, but that's only because I'm looking at that like agape or agape. I don't know. Brave the darkness of Avalon. Tainted Grail Journey in Avalon pulls you into a dying world where every step, every choice shapes your fate. Explore a vast, open ended world, uncover lost secrets, and forge your own legend through dynamic random tables. The streamlined system, inspired by Shadows of Esterin's award winning story arc system, blends character progression with intuitive solo play, giving you the tools to shape your own story. Choose one of the 5 pre-made characters or create your own. How will your story be remembered? Mine? It'll be dumb. So, right up front, we have some of the pre-made characters, and there is this color system that was the same thing in the 20 Strong game. And I think that I would love to check this game out more because I just know that there are some games that I could pick up and say, oh, yeah, they use this like we did before. Oh, this is a powered by the apocalypse type thing. Oh, okay, this is something that's going to be using a D20 roll under. This one is just like 1,000-year-old vampire. This one's this. This is a game that really defied my expectations and understanding. There were certain times where it felt like it was going in a more journaling direction. It felt like there were times when it was a crunchy kind of thing. And then it felt like there were times where I was like, I think I'm playing something totally different here that I don't even know. There's a whole fighting stance deck, adventure deck. If you don't have the deluxe edition of Journey and Avalon tarot cards, you could use standard tarot deck, treating the hearts, diamonds, clubs, and spades as cups, coins, wands, and swords. You could use a standard tarot deck. I think that meant standard card deck, right? Anyways, it doesn't matter. There are some tarot decks that have those suits. I mean, that's what original tarot was. Back to this. So yeah, I mean, just let me read some of these things here that will show you right away that this is not something that we've tried before. You have starting territory. Taking all basic information in consideration as well as their background, your character will start the game in a specific Avalon territory. This determines the first turn in each journey and consequently the first song played, and will slightly limit the other territories you can visit. Ways. Ways are mental traits that determine the character's primary inclinations, outlook, and behavior. Each of the 5 ways is rated from 1 to 5. So a little bit maybe like Pendragon there, where you're moving and trying to determine what your character does from their traits rather than determining what they do and having their traits conform that. Different combat stances, different combative skills, different conviction, reason, and creativity skills. You have ascension points for your narrative arc. As your character goes from one act to the next, moving closer to ascension, they will grow stronger in several ways. This is their metamorphosis. Companions. So, what I still can't really figure out is this game truly open ended? Is this game a game book? I get a little nervous when I read that choices you make might limit where you can go, because that's not anything that is innately negative. My preference personally, though, is I don't like playing games, role playing games. I like playing other board games, card games like this, but I don't like playing role playing games that you're already told about how the game's going to end at the very beginning, because that is a way in which sort of unfamiliarity with other games can limit your perspective on what the game can be. And that, I think, is a protective measure that people who are new to the space but know a lot about RPGs or games in general, they for some reason intuit that, like, oh, I've got to make sure, since this is a solo game, no one's going to want to play this forever and ever by themselves. So I need to make sure that I figure out a way to like limit this experience. And that's unfortunate. I don't know if that's the case here. So it says anatomy of a song. A song consists of the following phases: choose a territory, build the play area, discover the weirdness effect, assess the tone, resolve challenges, determine rewards and setbacks, advance your character, and end the song. So it says this is the last phase of a song where you make some final preps before you start a new one. Okay. Again, I don't know if a song is the like a segment or the whole thing. This is using a kind of carta system here with cards to determine where you go next. There is skill resolution, there's experience points, advancement. So I also think this is really, really intriguing right here is this weirdness effect where influence events. In this section, you'll find the 4 different tables of influence events by weirdness level, and below them a list of description of how each one works. So these seem to be these types of meta narrative events that give you a sense thematically of like what the shift in the story is about to be. So it could be hopelessness, alliance, despair, companions, nemesis, brothers and sisters in arms. Brothers and sisters in arms, stories of your deeds carry weight as they travel through Avalon, igniting a fierce passion and admiration in those who would listen. Actions might drive the point home. Resolution roll, inspiration skill. If this roll is successful, you fill people's hearts with determination, ready to give up their lives if necessary. Reduce in half damage from the next hit you sustain. So this looks to be like some sort of status, like narrative status. Corrupted giant, scarlet worm. These are the different Avalon territories with the reference pages. And I think from here, this is the rest of the book. Now, check this out, man. So you have um, like every place you enter is a different card setup. And you'll draw from the tone table. I actually think that's a dice roll. And then for each place, look at this. You have all these different things that can happen. Several city guards abandon their posts overnight. And then you draw another card. It's cups. They were paid to do so. If you draw coins or discs, an attack coincides with it. Interrogations reveal a spy. Local criminals are emboldened. And what's kind of exciting about this is just the possibilities here. Every single one of these places has all this stuff that can happen. And the reason why it limits where you can go and what you can do is because some of it does have narrative implications that cut off other places. Now, I haven't looked at it enough to know what that is, but presumably it could be like you make a choice to save somewhere and it burns to the ground, or you go to this place and then you're too far away, but it's a whole lot of gameplay. And additionally, some game books do have this thing where you're flipping back to the map, and I really like that. I think it's cool. So Brits, where do you live? Which zone? Hey, speaking of zones, our next book. Okay, so we're going to talk about Zones next by Sasquatch Games. Really quick, just some brief ones that I want to talk about and just mention. So this is Wraithhound by Cesar Capacle. I did a review of Derelict Delvers a few days ago, and this was another game that I had looked at before that by him, and a really cool game. I think that those who like journaling plus games, this is a really fantastic one. He also built out a playingcards.io page where the whole card system from this game, which is quite expansive and good and really creates some wonderful inputs. All of it is available on that if you buy it from itch.io. So check that out if you can. It didn't quite scratch the itch that I was looking to scratch in the moment. That's why I ultimately decided to review Derelict Delvers, but really cool nonetheless. And then Book of Masteries is out by Black Oath Games. This is a fantastic addition to Care Nethelus, which I played Care Nethelus about 2 nights ago. I had a session laying in my bed, and it's the perfect bed game. It is a game that is old school dungeon crawling, and this is just incredible. The amount of options that this adds in terms of powering up your characters and individuating them with their powers. Uh, it's like puts so many other games to shame. You see games where you're like, wow, you can get 5 different upgrades. And it's like, yeah, you can get 5,000 here. So bye. Anyways, this is out. It's available. You should check out Alex T. Black Oath's Patreon as well as the Drive Through RPG. And then the last thing I want to say is that I was checking out these 2 games. I generally like map making games that are like games, and both of these definitely fit the bill. I'm wondering if either of you two who are watching, or if anyone watching has played either of these. They're quite interesting. I really like games by M. Alan Hall. And Ex Novo is by Shark Bomb Studios, also really cool. The other game that I have like this, of course, was Cartographer is a great one. Sorry, Cartograph by Raven's Ridge Emporium. But there are these other games that are sort of aligned to this either world building, dungeon building. There's this Foundations, Adventure. No, this one is not. That's just one about how to write tabletop adventures. Pretty good. This one is not really a game. This is no game. All right. Um, any of these by Anna Blackwell, like Rise, Umbra, Delve, kind of fit the bill. I'm wondering if any of you have any of these not here that you really enjoy, or any of these that you really enjoy, because I would like to do a video on these, but I'm just not quite sure what the genre is. Is it map drawing? Is it world building? Is it bigger than that? Let me know. And then just a mention that Brian Gago who made Solitary Plunder, which is the solo Pirate Borg supplement. This is available physical form and just released. Corpse Haven, the Living Inn, all the art himself, including the inn, which just crawls around in this small adventure. This is available as well. And every day is made better with some starvation consequences. Okay, so Zones. What I was most surprised about with Zones, and this is by Sasquatch Games, which is Cody Barr, and you might know Cody from Courier. This is the repacked edition. Is that a lot of Cody's games are really cool and really well made, really tight mechanics that flow one right next into the other. It is a game that you are not, though, going to have to like create a lot of scenarios other than what your imagination weaves. So it's not really usually an open-ended kind of thing. And so I was expecting much of the same with Zones. However, what I was surprised to find was that it's compatible with Mouse Ritter, which I'm not saying that Cody Bark is like Cody using Mouse Ritter, but I was like, oh, this is going to be something new because Courier as well as like Glide, a lot of the games Cody from comment he wrote once, I know, really loves like Fallout and the post-apocalyptic thing, and so I thought, well, this is probably another one much like that. Um, and Zones is a tabletop role playing game of exploration, danger, and survival in a world scarred by forces beyond science. But this one is inspired by the Stalker game series, which, yeah, is tangential, built for solo, co op, and traditional GM play, and built compatible with Mouse Ritter. My little Mouse Ritter board right here. And I do love Mouse Ritter and Cairn and everything that has a kind of cute, limited inventory choice with stats that are brought down to the lowest common denominator because you are able to create fantastic ongoing stories with the minimal amount of crunch needed to make it work. But even more than that, it's the right recipe for complexity. And I just think it's one of the best systems, like the best NSR systems. And I just want to say that Zones is awesome. Zones is the game that I want to play but get frustrated with because the Twilight 2000 rules are just like too big. And by the time I figure out how to set up my game and made my map and remembered how to do partial cover, and if I need to spend a move to rotate my tank and everything, Zones will have you on to the third session of your campaign. It is expert and it shows what just repeatedly knows to grind in terms of making games, putting things out for the investment in improvement. Not saying anything was ever bad with Cody. It's just like every time something comes out by Sasquatch Games, it's just margin of better. And it's this one I think is I haven't played every game, but this one is so good and it's so easy to digest, and it has uh right here the Mouse Ritter like sort of items that you could easily cut into little squares and put in your inventory. Explains how to do saves, combat, scars. Scars is improvement. I know that for some, that's not exactly what they like, but I like the scars system, and there are other options too that you don't have to advance with scars. But the tables in here and just the options of different loot and artifacts and rations and the way of making different hexes and developing different factions and all the different settlements and how they're divided by faction lines, exploration. It's just has 20 options for most of these things, and 20 options with 20 different things is going to give you uh, a millennium worth of play situations, hooks, NPCs, common enemies, rare enemies, how to run factions, giving them lore, and then setting up like a hex. I always want to call it a honeycomb flower, whatever. And it just will make you feel like a great solo player. So I really encourage you to use this. Rumors, broadcasts, world events, just to make the lore feel lived in. And then, of course, at the end, some fantastic solo oracles to keep your stuff going. The focus table, questions table, NPCs, sparks, in urban, industrial, natural, strange, locations, settlements, PCs, and a reference at the back. Awesome, awesome. Please check that out on DriveThruRPG. Uh, Even whittled down to something that is only the essentials is a pamphlet by Fari RPG. And Fari RPG has lots of interesting systems. And you can recognize all of them because they have ampersands in the middle. All right, that's kind of untrue. Only one of them has an ampersand in the middle. Well, technically three do, but I think only one of the systems does, which is Songs and Sagas. They actually are most well known for Breathless. Um, and speaking of, Waste Walkers is a cool, tight sort of pamphlet type Fallout kind of clone, I guess. All right. So thanks for sticking around. I hope you have waited to this point because this is a fun little story I have to tell you here. So, some time ago, um, some nights, in the same way that people who just scour Amazon looking to do shopping, anytime you're doing that, just know I'm doing the same thing on either Noble Knight or Drive Through RPG. And I love finding the weird stuff on DriveThruRPG, the stuff that hasn't had any like updates for 6 years, uh, no reviews or anything. And I found this set of cards, and it is, I believe, 10 cards. And on one side of the card is something pretty and thematic. And it's all a bit weird like this from that distance. I don't know about you, but this looks exactly like the recipe cards my mom used to have, like printed with a typewriter on index cards. Some stuff like that. I love this one. I have eaten 7 filing cabinets, one, a pedestal with a sign reading under restoration, this room. All of them just have this like beautiful art. And there's a card here that says, "Welcome to Gastronomic Mythology. Explore the colors, textures, and patterns of our grand tapestries and other woven texts to learn about recipes from tales of gods and heroes, feasts that change the course of fabled history, legendary ingredients, and culinary rituals." And I was like, what? Gastronomic mythology. Okay. But what I found on the other side of these cards, and there really wasn't too much instruction, is that each of them had these symbols. And again, this is one of these things where it doesn't have much, except what it does have is everything I need. And so each of these cards has some sort of thematic name. This is the companion, the message, the ink keeper, the beast. And then it also on the bottom has every oracle response. Yes, no, but, no, no, yes, and, no, and, yes, and, etc. And also around the edge, it has things that are based on the theme. So, like the forbidden, peril, revelation, lost, temptation, the wanderer, strange lands, curiosity, solitary paths. I always think that says giraffe, it says growth. And so it's just such a cool little oracle here. And I love it because I don't know why I'm drawn to stuff like this that just has a little bit something about it. I get more out of it. And I've talked about this before, like putting constraints on things is always more, it always activates us more than just giving us everything and building independence. Anyways, I uh, opened up this box where I keep a lot of my oracle cards like a few months ago. And actually, this was like a year ago because I remember it was Christmas. So, like 8 months ago. It doesn't matter. And I find these cards and I go, man, I wonder if they've done anything else since then. I love this little card deck. And I could not find this on Drive Through RPG. But even more, I could not find this anywhere. I wrote into Google using Boolean search terms. I was like, gastronomic mythology. No response. I started typing stuff on these cards. Tupo infestation. Don't know what the hell that means. Tupo tips. The glyph warden. Nothing, nothing, nothing. And then I searched all over Drive Through RPG. Couldn't find a damn thing. Here's the weirdest part. I looked through like my downloaded files on Drive Through RPG and I couldn't even find it. Because usually when you buy something, it'll like show up. I looked in orders and I did find orders for these cards, but there was no other trace. And I was so mad. I was like, what the hell? Okay. Then it is a desperate night at the game store, and I really don't want a journaling mystery game. It's like XX. I don't want either of these. But I saw Andrew from Pandion Games put in a recommendation on the back of this, and I was like, Andrew is the man. I like everything he says. He's Midnight Muscadines. That comes up again. And I also looked in the back of this book and saw that it had an awesome play loop, and it also had really, really, really nice, like different appendices with a lot of cool tables and stuff like that that were like for a journaling game. It just has a lot of really good generators. And I don't know why Trophy Dark, Trophy Loom, Trophy Gold has this amazing thing that just does it for me aesthetically with like the white and black dye next to each other. There's something about it. It's like, I just love the look of that. And I'm going through it, and I'm like, okay, really cool. And then I see this, and this is how powerful this stuff is. This isn't even part of this, but I immediately run across the room, grab these cards, and go, I know that. I knew this. I knew it. You flip to the back of the book, and I was like, no way. The back of the book, Tupo infestation. Tupo freaking infestation. It is literally that card. And then all over the book are all of these cards. The only card that I don't think is there, or maybe it is, was like the gastronomic mythology thing. I love this. There's like a bingo, library bingo card that you use in the game. The system for creating rituals is so fun, but the system for creating rituals is basically used to generate these cards. So I don't know if these cards are like available again. I think they are, but they are the Oracle system for this game. And let me tell you folks, I did not finish a game of this, but I started playing it. I didn't stop because I was bored. I was just really tired and I was like, I'll be damned. I'm enjoying myself. And this is also in the same universe as The Librarian's Apprentice, which is way more of a journaling type thing. And so this is you can get this on the cheap. I think I got it for $17, $18. If you've played The Librarian's Apprentice solo journaling RPG, you can use this game to continue your character's story. The game mechanics are different, but you can retain your familiar and the truths you established. Oh man, that's a journaling game, huh? The truths you've established. You can even revisit locations and people you encountered previously. But yeah, you're investigating in this huge library and super cool, man. I was so happy to find these cards again and this is what I think I need in every journaling game so I can anchor myself in that. Anyways, I hope you enjoyed this. I know that it was a bit long, but if you believe it, I can tell you that I actually deleted a half hour from this video when I went over all my miniature wargaming recommendations for different games that I'm enjoying in that genre, such as Rangers of Shadow Deep and Lictor and Cosmica and a whole bunch of other ones. So if you'd like to see that video, I think I'll post it on my members channel, thus enticing you to join. But other than that, we had some fun. And other than what I just said, I also want to say thank you to all of my members. I appreciate you so, so much. If you're interested in joining, we have an awesome Discord. Uh, just the other day, we shared about a bunch of stuff we're working on. There's a lot of soup based activities going on in the Discord right now. You'll find out when you get there. And thanks, everybody. And wow, it just started pouring rain. And when it rains, I already said that, it pours.